Hello, everyone. Good Thursday, and as always, a sincere thanks for spending a little time with us. Glad to have you here on the 11th day of August. As I referred to on last night's program, we were covering today back to school. You could almost feel that big comfortable sigh upon walking into the Harold Whittaker Middle School that I think most everyone felt there, as basically the population of that building was cut in half. Even though the middle school, of course, gained 3 new sixth grade classes, still about half the population as to what they've been accustomed to since the 2012 tornado. Nevertheless, that story, also another great heartwarming story, will not be aired tonight. And I actually had that sensation or understanding as I was filming those reports. I'm hopeful to get those on tomorrow. I do have hours and hours and hours of testimony condensed to about 4 or 5 pages, it looks as though, from the ongoing election fraud trial. And that is where much of my afternoon has been spent, in addition to filming those reports that I just didn't have time to edit or time to get onto the program tonight. We will, in another report, however, talk about those filing deadlines which have come and gone, those who have filed to run for city council in Paintsville and in Salyersville, some other races to speak of as well, school board races, constable races, and some others, while there will be no need for several elections in Johnson County and Paintsville as a result of the filings. And we'll have some other details in a full community calendar to pass along to you in just a few moments. I'm going to go ahead and dive right in now with testimony from the third day of the trial. And we'll go back to yesterday's testimony and pick up where my notes left off. They got us through about 3:30 or 4 o'clock into the afternoon. The information that I had to pass along to you, we'll pick it up from there, and then we'll start with this morning's testimony. My apologies, but really no other way to do this than just sit here and read to you what I have. I've had handwritten notes from the courtroom sent to us. I have transcribed them, typed them in, condensed them, made them to where I could read them a little better. And that's just the only way you can do it when you're not allowed to have cameras in the courtroom. So going back to yesterday's testimony, the prosecution was still in charge. They called yesterday Roy Reisner of Magoffin County. Roy Reisner actually incarcerated in jail on unrelated charges to the investigation, but was brought in his orange jumpsuit from jail, subpoenaed by the government and their case. He immediately, as soon as he took the stand, pled the fifth after being asked if he just had voted in the 2014 general election. The judge then, after he pled the fifth, immediately sent the jury outside of the courtroom and informed Reisner that failure to respond could put him in jeopardy. The judge then appointed Reisner an attorney to explain his situation further. Reisner was later brought back into the court before the judge and told the court of meeting with Rooster Reisner at the Elk Creek BP alone, where he discussed the $50 for Roy Reisner's vote. Roy Reisner, that is, saying that he talked about the method of payment, and after he gave Rooster Reisner, the magistrate, his absentee ballot that he had signed and left otherwise blank, he watched personally Rooster put the money in his own car, in Roy Reisner's car, for payment of his vote. The government then called Donnie Montgomery, who testified that he sold his vote to Rooster Reisner, who asked him to vote for him. Montgomery said that he went to the courthouse, signed in, and voted on the absentee machine alone. Later, when Donnie Montgomery says he was working, Rooster Reisner drove up to him and gave him $50 in cross. Michael Curtis, one of the defendant's attorneys, claimed that Montgomery was already going to vote for Rooster Reisner anyway, to which he confirmed, and there was no need for him to have been paid $50 for doing so. He alleged that the $50 from Rooster Reisner to Donnie Montgomery was payment for wood that Montgomery had cut for Rooster. Next to the stand was Junior Gamble, who said that Greg Howard was talking, or he overheard him talking about buying votes, and later he went to Rooster's barn, that being Junior Gamble, testifying that he went to Rooster Reisner's barn and asked him how much he was paying for votes. Rooster told him $100, and he showed him a sample ballot showing him who specifically to vote for. Gamble claims that Rooster told him to go to the courthouse and take it to Mike Prater. Mike Prater, a Republican precinct worker who has been involved in Magoffin County politics for some time. He is also hired as an accountant for the county in some services and has been for years. Nevertheless, told him to take it to Mike Prater. Gamble said that when he went there and he asked for Prater for help, Magoffin County Court Clerk Renee Shepard brought Gamble a form that he says was already filled out by Larry Shepard. He says that this took place on May 13th of 2014 before the primary. Next, he says that he and Mike Prater went to the voting booth, and once inside, Mike Prater turned on the machine and then started to vote for Gamble. Gamble also testified that when they got to the sheriff's race, he waved his hand, and then when they came to the magistrate's race, Gamble tried to vote for Magistrate Buck LeMaster, but he also says that Prater literally slapped his hand away and wouldn't let him vote for him. The prosecutor asked where Larry Shepard was at this time, and Gamble said outside in a little room. Afterwards, Gamble testified that he went back to Rooster to get his money. Gamble also said that he later reported this very same act to the FBI but was never contacted. In cross, Rooster's attorney asked Gamble if he was a convicted felon, to which he said yes. He also said that he had done a lot of work for the DEA in several states. Over the course of 20 years, he has served as an informant to some degree for the state police, local, and federal authorities, and that yes, he had gotten paid for it. Next to the stand, Ken Taylor for the government called Douglas Bailey to the stand, who said that he and his girlfriend Wilma Keaton, who is now deceased, had bumped into a Garlina Lovely and Tammy Reisner, the defendant, and that Tammy said that they could each get $50 for their votes. He testified that Garlina and Tammy took them to the courthouse, that Garlina drove, and that when they were there, they both voted for Rooster, and then Garlina and Tammy took them somewhere and dropped them off for a bit, and then Garlina and Tammy returned, and Garlina Lovely handed Mrs. Keaton two $50 bills. On cross-examination, Attorney Curtis accused Bailey of being an IV drug user, to which Bailey admitted to using OxyContin in that fashion. Last to testify for the day yesterday was Teresa Whittington, a forensic accountant for the FBI who was there to show a large discrepancy between the number of absentee votes and that election. She presented a spreadsheet that showed how 4 of the races were won by the extreme numbers of absentees, those 4 races where the opponents of those 4 had actually won the number of votes cast in the precincts on election day. That brought us to the end of testimony on yesterday, and then brought us to this morning, where the court picked up with, again, Jamie Gibson. Jamie Gibson was called yesterday, and he was asked to confirm a video that he had provided to the FBI, and they had some technical difficulties. They got those ironed out, and he was able to testify to that extent today. Once Jamie Gibson was brought back to the stand, a video that he made on his cell phone was set up for viewing. It showed that the phone, when he took the video, those in the courtroom said it appears as though the video was first taken as the phone was in his pocket for much of the time, and that then he later, while the recording was going on, pulled it out of his pocket, and it appeared as though he just held it in his hand during a conversation with Magistrate Rooster Reisner. Those in the courtroom could hear and sometimes see he and Rooster Reisner talking, Gibson telling Rooster that Scotty McCarty told Gibson that Rooster would pay him $100 for his vote. Gibson can be heard telling Rooster that he could also get some more votes for as little as $25 each, to which Rooster Reisner said no. If other people, he said, get different amounts, some would get mad and go to the authorities, and I don't want to offend anyone, and I don't want to go to the pen. In cross for the defense, Attorney Curtis tried to insinuate that Gibson is and was on drugs. He claimed that there was no time or date stamp on the video, and became loud to the point that the judge, who had warned Curtis on numerous occasions yesterday, instructed the jury to leave, and then brought Curtis to the bench and appeared to have scolded him for a few moments, after which Curtis began to question Gibson if he knew a Chris Day and a Felicia Howard, to which the judge instructed him that was a domestic situation and to move on, to which he did. That ended that questioning. The government then called Mr. Ken Kirk of the FBI, an agent for 21 years. He detailed the Attorney General and FBI investigation that's been ongoing for months. Using the absentee lists, he says, was how they found many people who sold votes. He says that they also discovered the Jamie Gibson video that was in existence. They found him in jail, and then after he was released, they contacted him and they downloaded that video directly from his phone. The agent also discussed that one witness had passed away that I referred to a few moments ago, Wilma Keaton. They also said that a Haley Hunley was a no-show today. They also confirmed that the U.S. Marshals have a warrant for her arrest, as she was a witness to testify for the federal government but did not show up today at all. He referred to Chad Hunley, Doug Bailey, Garlina Lovely, and others as a part of the investigation, saying that the gravel is part of the investigation that the county road department had hauled some to private drives. He also spoke of the relationships between the Shepherds, Randy and Susie Salyer, and Doc Harden. He also said that they have conducted some 130 interviews throughout the course of their investigation, and it all pointed to votes being bought with cash and gravel, and that the investigation also centered around now a disappearing Mack truck that the county owns, that we've already covered in the past several days. The FBI also went on to recant Randy Salyers' previous vote-buying arrest and history as background evidence, they called it, before the U.S. rested its case as of this morning with that testimony. With the defense, or the prosecution resting rather, the defense then would resume the case. We understand that, my apologies, so many notes. An attorney for one of the defendants requested an acquittal for Larry Shepard. Larry Shepard's attorney requesting an acquittal for the lack of evidence at this time, as did each of the attorneys for each defendant requesting an acquittal based on a lack of evidence. However, those were not granted. There were some charges that were dropped at this point, however, before the defense took its case to the court. In the end, the death of the witness, Wilma Keaton, and with Haley Hunley, another witness who was a no-show, not there, the judge did dismiss 2 counts against Tammy Reisner and 2 counts against Larry Shepard. But once again, the request to dismiss on lack of evidence was not granted for either of the defendants. However, with that exception, as I said, 2 counts for Tammy Reisner and 2 counts for Larry Shepard due to the fact of one of the witnesses passing away and another one not being there to testify. So from that point further, for the remainder of the day, the defense had the stage. They first called Jerry Helton, who's been mentioned in many of the court proceedings. He testified that he had never bought any votes, didn't see anything illegal, didn't know anything about any shotguns being given as thanks by Jerry Sweeney. He said that Mike Prater was his brother-in-law, but he'd never seen a large amount of cash at Rooster's home, as Scotty McCarty alleged, that Rooster Reisner didn't hand him $5,000 for votes, that he didn't help Chester Howard set up a fire truck to block buying votes at the Middle Fork Fire Department at those precincts, and that he didn't know how to switch votes on the machine, as was alleged. He also testified that he never saw anyone buying votes in any election, and that he never told Scotty McCarty, as McCarty alleged, that they had bought 300 votes during the 2014 election. After his testimony, there was a brief break for lunch. The defense came back in. They began by calling it Doug Patrick, who the government says the prosecution said received gravel before the election. However, Patrick testified that he had fallen out with Rooster Reisner a year or so ago, that his driveway was paved and had been since '94, and that he nor any of his sons received gravel for votes. Following Patrick's testimony, each defendant and their attorney separately approached the bench before the judge, quietly speaking to the judge for several minutes. We have no indication or idea as to what those conversations were about. Next, Tammy Reisner's attorney called Clay Mason. Mason was said to be a private investigator for Doug Bailey. Was a private investigator who interviewed Doug Bailey, one of the witnesses for the prosecution. Now, the private investigator says that when he spoke with Doug Bailey for about 20 minutes in that interview, that he told him that Garlena Lovely was the one that bought his vote and his wife Wilma's vote, that Garlena was the one that drove him to the courthouse, and that he never mentioned Tammy Reisner in that conversation. Next, actually, the first and only one of the defendants to take the stand was Mason Daniels, who took the stand in his own defense this afternoon. He said that he had never been involved in politics, never voted before 2014, and when he did vote in 2014, Larry Shepard assisted him, as he couldn't read and write, only by turning on the machine, reading the names to him, and then Shepard standing by the door with his back turned to Mason as he continued the voting process. Mason Daniels also stated during his time on the stand that he only gave a Tasha Nichols and a David Johnson a ride to Speedway, and that they got out and went into the courthouse and voted, and then came back and they gave him $20 for gas, that he did not buy their votes, as they testified to. He also testified that he was not a Doc Harden supporter because his mother had to quit her job at the nursing home because of Harden. Daniels was the last person to testify today. The judge then instructed the defense to have the rest of their witnesses available by 8:30 in the morning. I am told that one of the witnesses they will be calling will be Weofa County Pastor Justin Williams, who served as a Republican judge on the precincts during the election after the resignation of Mike Prater, who held that position. That's the only one that we can confirm who is testifying tomorrow on behalf of the defense. The court is planning on the defense wrapping up possibly in the early afternoon with closing remarks to follow and possibly having the case in the hands of the jury by tomorrow afternoon or evening. That's all dependent on exactly what happens in court tomorrow. That is as close to my ability, all of the records that we've been able to gather and pass along to you. Of course, a lot of other things transpiring, taking place in court. Some information or statements that were redundant we would leave out or that seem non-consequential, but we have covered all the important ones to the best of our very ability. With that said, I'll pause for a brief message and a brief rest of my throat. We will pick up tomorrow what appears to be the last day of testimony and any things that develop thereafter. I'll pick up with more local headlines, though, right after the words from these folks, who I hope you'll let know you're watching every chance you have. I'll be right back.
For high-speed internet starting at 15 meg for all of your gaming, movie, home, and business solutions, or to watch TV, including your favorite local channels without a contract with hundreds of channels and digital and HD quality, and to stay connected 24/7 with friends and family, a direct line to 911, or to give your business the link it needs, choose telephone service you know is always there. Just click on their link on this site to find out how affordable the latest technology in communications can be. Foothills Communications.
Last Tuesday was the filing deadline for nonpartisan races, which will appear on the November ballot. And I have the list of those candidates in Johnson and Magoffin counties, which have filed to run for a variety of offices, including city council in both cities, as well as some school board races, some constable races, and maybe some others, soil and conservation being those. It's also clear that there will be no need for several of the elections in Paintsville and Johnson County.
That's because most all, if not all, of the races are being run by those people who will be unopposed, and that includes the Paintsville City Council. There are school board seats up for grabs in Paintsville and Johnson County in the Johnson County school system, District 2 and District 3. To the left of your screen, William R. Fraley, the only individual to file for that of school board in District 2, and Bob Hutchison, the current board chairman, the only individual to file for the seat of the District 3 Board of Education for Johnson County schools. Also in the Johnson County schools, to the left of your screen, Melvin Van Hoos, the only person to file for the District 5 seat. On the Paintsville City School Board, however, there are two names, Eddie Hazlett and Matt Williams, filed for Paintsville City School Board. And there will definitely be some new folks to sit on the Paintsville City Council next time around, because there were only 6 people who filed for the 6 available seats. Bill Mike Runyon on the board, as is Sarah Hobson Blair. Also filing, Tommy Daniels, Justin Lewandowski, Patricia Nelson, and Jim Meek. And that will be your next city council of Paintsville. There will be a little more competition in Sayersville and Magoffin County. Those filing for soil and water conservation are some familiar names and others: James Holliday, Ben Gardner, William Helton, Jackie Minix, Joseph Bukowski. The constable's race for District 2 in Magoffin County consists of 2 candidates, Wade Collinsworth and Ronnie Howard. There are 3 Magoffin County Board of Education seats up for re-election this time around in November. 2 of them have races that will be unopposed, as only one individual would file for each respective district. In District 2, James Ronald Gullett, Jimbo Gullett, who was appointed to serve the unexpired term of former board chairman Bill W. May, will continue to sit on the Magoffin County Board of Education, as he was the only one to file. Abe Douglas Wireman in District 3 was the only person to file for that seat as well. And for School Board District 5, Ryan Arnett and Donald Helton Jr. Turning to the Sayersville City Council, there will be 2 names eliminated from this list coming election time, as the top 6 will be chosen as your next Sayersville City Council. Previous board council person, Jeff Ross has filed, as has current board or councilman, my apologies again, Kenneth Williams. Paul Burchell has filed to run for Sayersville City Council, as has Mary Rao. Tommy Bailey, Tex Holbrook, Jeff Bailey, and Tom Frazier, all of which currently serve on the Sagersville City Council. 5 of the 6 current members have filed for re-election with the addition of Jeff Ross, Paul Burchell, and Mary Rao. And, of course, also on the ballot will be the hotly contested presidential election, as well as a state representative's race in Magoffin and parts of Pike County. That will include, of course, Democrat John Short and Republican challenger John Blanton. I'll be right back in just a second. Happy birthday wishes will kick off the calendar tonight. The first to Shirley Owen with a whole lot of love from a whole lot of family and friends. Happy birthday, Shirley. Happy birthday to you. Birthday wishes also going out today to Kristen Salyer with a whole lot of love from a whole lot of family and friends as well. Happy birthday to you. And I've even got a third celebrating their birthday on today, the 11th. This birthday wish comes from family and friends and goes out to Patty Marshall. Happy birthday. And I've actually got one more that was for yesterday. It's a day belated, and that's on me, to Joey Salyer with a whole lot of love from a whole lot of family and friends. Happy belated birthday. Happy birthday to Joey Salyer. Reminder from the Appalachian Outdoorsman Association, Ernie Thacker, Black Powder Express, and more are going to be at their grounds in West Liberty for a big bluegrass festival to raise funds for archery supplies for the youth and their organization. It's just $10. 12 and under, get in free. They're going to have food, they're going to have cornhole tournaments, and more. Go to their Facebook page. That's Appalachian Outdoorsman Association. This Saturday is going to be a big day on Cave Run. They'll leave or launch from the Alfrey Boat Ramp at 6 o'clock Saturday evening, and they'll weigh in at 2 o'clock that morning. The Big Fish prize, every hour of $100. First place pays $1,000 in the Elk Creek Freewill Baptist Summer Bass Fishing Tournament. Don't forget about the gospel singing at the First Community Baptist Church, where Pastor Lindsay Mead and everyone else invites all singers, musicians, and you to come and be a part of the evening. This just in, our Magoffin County S.A.F.E Coalition, Substance Abuse Free Environment Coalition, that is, will have a regular meeting this coming Wednesday in the Magoffin County Health Department. I don't have the meeting time on there. I will for tomorrow. My apologies. But a regular meeting this coming Wednesday. And it's almost that time. It's time for Heritage Day here in Sagersville, Magoffin County, and the pageants. The baby and children pageant sign-ups are going to be held not this coming Friday or the next, but on the 26th, 27th, and 29th. That will be a Monday. I'll remind you when it gets a little closer, but just wanted to put that out there for now, that pageant signups will start Friday the 26th for the baby and children pageants for Heritage Day. And lastly, from our friends at the Magoffin County Funeral Home, funeral services to be held in honor of 33-year-old Roland Matthew Bailey, Jr., known as Bub, by friends and family of Sagersville, who passed away on Wednesday, survived by his father, Roland Matthew Bailey, Sr., and his mother, Judy Joseph Bailey, and his brother, Jeff. Visitation, from what we understand, will be this Friday, tomorrow, at 6 o'clock at the church, that's the Eternal Church of God at Waldo, with services to be held Saturday morning beginning at 11. In lieu of flowers, you're asked to make contributions to the Roland Matthew Bailey Jr. Memorial Fund in his honor. I'll be right back.